Work from home provided a lot of relaxation for employees until the company decided they wanted to start spying on you. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and let's talk about work from home. Now, I have been working from home since the pandemic began. And even before the pandemic began, before I decided to go back to the workforce, I have always worked from home. This YouTube channel, which was my job for a while, it's not so much now, but something fun to do, especially now that I've got loads of free time. This used to be a job, and so I would answer emails, I would film videos, I would edit them. I did it all from home. I was self-motivated, and I was happy. And I know people, like not a lot of people, granted, but a lot of people or a few people who did work from home, and they talked about how great working from home was. And I have a friend who's been working from home for a long time, and he said, and I remembered this, that there's really nothing stopping companies from letting employees work from home except the issue of trust. Flat out, a lot of companies do not trust their employees to work from home. They really don't care if it would be a better work-life balance. If they can't see you in the office, they don't trust that you're working. And even when they can see you in the office, they don't trust you. And they're constantly walking up and looking over the shoulder like, so what are you looking at? You working? Yeah? Okay. So you're working, right? That's what it is. It's like these I hate to use the term because I don't like being an ageist, if you will, but it's these boomers who do not understand that the technology is as such that they do not need to be in the office and they do not need you to be constantly looking over your shoulders. Now, when the pandemic shut things down, companies had to send people home to work for the most part, but the CEO of JPMorgan basically was saying that it was ridiculous and he wanted people to come back to the office. They would be expected to come back to the office. That's where the best work was done. And there's been a little bit of a civil war since then. First of all, not only did people go back to the office and find that all of the bosses weren't back in the office, they were still working at home, and regular employees found their days doing Zoom meetings in the office. Like, why can't you do that at home? I don't know. And of course, then the JPMorgan CEO said that people who work from home are probably a little bit lazier. And Elon Musk this week, or maybe last week by the time this goes up, I almost made a video about it, but I didn't. He said that basically Tesla employees would be forced to come back to the office or to find other jobs. Now, keep in mind, these are their companies. They want to make these decisions. That's their prerogative to do so. But as the AI lead programmer, or whatever the heck he was from Apple proved, if you don't like the working conditions of your company, you can go work for Google or someone else. And I think there's going to be this debate about remote work for a little while before companies realize that it's just something they're going to have to adapt to. But JP Morgan, they seem to have loosened up a little bit, but now there's a new problem. They are essentially spying on their employees, Big Brother style, and they're taking it to such an extent that it's honestly a little creepy. So here's from Business Insider. JP Morgan employees describe growing paranoia as the company tracks their office attendance, calls, calendars, and more, with one worker even installing a mouse jiggler to evade Big Brother. And by the way, it appears that this is also for people in the office. So, at JP Morgan Chase, employees say watchful eyes are everywhere. From concerns over the use of ID swipe data to track their comings and goings to fears about how much further the bank's workplace surveillance extends, more than half a dozen current and former employees told Insider they're unsettled by the company's data collection. Insider has learned that JP Morgan Chase built a powerful data collection platform called the Workplace Activity Data Utility, or WADU for short, shortly before the advent of the coronavirus pandemic. It has inspired widespread suspicion and mistrust in the 2 years since, the worker said in interviews. Quote, amongst a lot of people, you will hear the term Big Brother and you will hear the term 1984, said one current U.S.-based employee with a direct knowledge of the system's functionalities. They got a lot of ads here in this article. It's fostered paranoia, it's fostered distrust, and to be honest with you, it's fostered a lot of disrespect, this person said. There's a lot of sentiment around Chase that we're just a number. That's all we are. A company official pointed Insider to language on the bank's intranet that says the information WADU gathers is intended to shore up, quote, business efficiency, resiliency, and workplace health and safety, and may not be used for any other purposes such as employment action. But employees said that they were largely unaware of such disclosures, and that, in practice, the bank does appear to have tied data collected in the system to employment action. So what are some of the things that JPMorgan tracks? Well, the bank tracks a variety of workplace-related data about hundreds of thousands of workers' communications and activities throughout the day. Tracking of individual employees' activities begins the moment they log into their virtual workplaces until they log out. Some employees describe adopting unusual behaviors to evade the system's detection during breaks or interludes throughout the day. For instance, the US-based employee who spoke about the dystopian book 1984 described downloading a mouse jiggler to keep the bank's virtual workspace from automatically timing out due to inactivity. Such timeouts could reduce the employee's overall number of hours logged, this person said. Another current employee within the firm's commercial banking division said that she and her colleagues have resorted to discussing work-related topics on forums like the iMessage app, even though doing so runs afoul of the bank's rules governing compliance communications. They're becoming more like a government and less like an employer, the person said. For all details on how JP Morgan's water system works and what kind of data tracks employees, you can read the insider's full story here. And maybe we'll do that one of these days, but I think we have enough. And here's the thing. JP Morgan is not the only company that's doing it. In fact, there's a lot of companies developing software to help big companies better see what their employees are doing. Like Microsoft Teams has become like a big one. I remember reading a story how like at Nintendo, everything is going through Microsoft Teams. And if you actually just sat back for like a few minutes, like you just need to stretch, you just need to relax, you just need to like, you're not doing any typing. You're not doing any typing. So you know what happens? It starts logging that you're not doing any typing, and Nintendo or your boss at Nintendo comes along and says, why aren't you doing any typing? So you know those little bird toys that are usually used for water bottles where the bird dips over into the water and then comes up and it just does that all day? There have been people at Nintendo who have bought those toys to type a key every few seconds when they decide they need a bathroom break or they need to go get something to drink, because it's just that stressful. And let me say something before we get too much further into this. I acknowledge that when you work at a company, you are on the company's dime. I acknowledge that they have every right to know what you're doing at work. I'm totally going to say that. They have the right to do that. But here's the thing. Micromanagement doesn't work. It has never worked. Companies with bosses that micromanage lose more than half of their employees within a year or two because people cannot take the stress of just constantly being micromanaged. This is a way to micromanage the employees. And not only is it stressful, it shows a severe lack of trust in your employees. Why would you want to work at a company that seems like it's constantly out to write you up and fire you? Unless you're getting paid 6 figures a year, why would you want to put up with that? Now, some people, they're perfectly fine with that. I actually know someone who worked for a company that didn't mind it when Microsoft Teams was installed on the company computers. It's like, well, look, I've got nothing to hide. I'm doing my job. But what he didn't realize is that Microsoft Teams would actually say, oh yeah, he took like a 10-minute break here. He took 7 minutes here. So then they come back to like, why didn't you work for 42 minutes today? What do you mean? I worked for like, no. See, we have this. So what were you doing? Oh, like bathroom and things like that. Oh yeah. Well, guess what? This is a write-up. And he was fired pretty shortly after that. These things get abused and they're stressful. The best kind of companies do this. They talk to their employees. They say, this is what we expect of you. Here's what you need to do. Here's when you're expected to deliver it. Please do it. By the way, if you do it early, you get a bonus. That's how you do it. You don't need to be micromanaging them. I mean, I don't even like these bosses that just because you're on the clock means like, oh, you have to be working every minute. This, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean philosophy has got to go away the same way the customer is always right has started to go away. It is just factually not true that that's how it needs to be. And in some cases, it's unhealthy to have these mindsets. So anyway, Chase is the most recent employer to do this. We'll see if companies like American Express and Bank of America follow suit. The unfortunate thing is that to a company, you probably are a number, especially when you're remote. You're just someone else who's working here. And look, we want to have the most efficient employers. And so, yeah, you might get a few of those people. But you're also going to have a lot of turnover and a lot of people who will do nothing but make videos and share stories and write articles about how stressed out they were working for this company and how inhumane it was. I mean, look, they'll probably get away with it. Amazon's been getting away with their inhumane treatment of workers for decades now, but it doesn't make it right. But anyway, I would like to ask, what do you think about this? Do you think this is right? Do you think it's wrong? I would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, blame responsibly. Have a good one.